Hey guys, this video is going to be about some general exercises to help loosen up your hips. One common thing that can make the hips tight is prolonged positions for a long period of time, especially with a lot of people working from home nowadays. Sitting is one of those things that we do a ton. We sit while we're at work, and then we sit when we even get off of work. So sitting occurs a lot throughout the day. A lot of these prolonged positions can actually result in stiffness or tightness that's in the hip. So I'll show you some exercises to loosen that up. These are all general exercises to address different aspects of the hip and different parts of them. So then that way, this will address the entire hip in general. I have another video about tight hip flexors. If that is something that you feel, this is more so tightness in the front of the hip, I'll link that video in the description below for you. These exercises that I'm going to show in this video will somewhat address the hip flexors, but not really. It will more complement the exercises that are in that other video. So you can go check that out in the description below. Hip openers is one of the exercises that I give for hip mobility. So you stand with your feet about shoulder width apart, hands by your hips. The left one is what we're looking at. Bring this up, bring it out, turn the hip in, and then bring it back in. So here you flex the hip, abduct the hip all the way along with externally rotating it, internally rotating the hip, and then bring it back in. So I usually have my folks do this about 10 times. You can do this on both sides if you're generally trying to loosen it up. Shin box is another exercise I like to prescribe for hip mobility on both sides at the same time. So a shin box is basically here. One hip's externally rotated and another hip is internally rotated. Okay, you get the heel to about where your other knee is. You do not need to create like a box here. It's just the way the name is. So you're starting from here and then you rotate back to the other side. Starting from here, you rotate back. Again, it's a mobility exercise, so I have my folks do this about 10 times when I have them do these exercises. So you want to bring it all the way down to get the maximum mobility for this. You also get a little bit of core control too. So the quadruped rock back is another nice exercise to help with mobilizing the posterior aspect of the hip, meaning the back of it. So to do this exercise, you're in a quadruped position. I'm just using this to help protect my knees or to just provide additional cushion. The right hip is what we're focusing on. So when you do the right side, you want to cross the leg out to the other side to have your foot crossed and hooked that way. And then you're actually just rocking towards the direction of your right cheek. You get to the point where you feel a little bit of a stretch and then you come back. You get to the point, a little bit of a stretch, and then come back. So you're almost going in that direction towards the hip, basically providing a stretch to the posterior tissues in the back there, really where the buns are. This is where you should be feeling the stretch, is kind of where that right butt cheek area. So this is a self-mobilization. Again, when I have people do this, it is about 10 reps. The kettlebell weight shift is another nice exercise to help open up the hips in addition to providing a stretch to your adductors, which is your muscles on the inner thigh or where the groin is. So this, I like to actually load this one. So this is a 15-pound kettlebell. You use what you feel most comfortable with. But to do this exercise, we'll start with the left side first. And this exercise really doesn't matter which side you start, you're gonna do both anyways. Because you're trying to generally loosen up the hip. So you have this leg out all the way as far as you can go. You want to be upright, trunk is erect, and your hip is forward. You don't really want to be leaned forward like this in terms of having a crease here. You don't want the hip flex. You want to stand up tall, squeeze the glutes in the back a little bit so you can get a little bit of a preload. Have that foot pointed out directly out to your left. Grab onto the kettlebell, and you want to put this hip into external rotation. To do that, you basically just turn it this way. So when you turn it that way, you're externally rotating the hip. So your shin should be on the inside. So hold that position, and then you're holding the kettlebell and you're just shifting. This one, you hold it for about 5 seconds, and then you come back, and you can do 5 to 10 on each side of these when you're doing this. You should feel a nice groin stretch when you're doing this on both sides. So shifting through, holding that, and then come on back. If you do this on the other side, it's very straightforward. It is exactly the same. You bring this out, toes pointed straight out, turn the hip, grab the kettlebell, stand up straight, and then you're just shifting. You feel a nice groin stretch on both sides. Few second hold, and then you come back. Few second hold, and then you come back. The last exercise is a deep lunge. So it's a hold in the lunge position. I always like to spend time in a deep lunge position because it always helps open up the hip. I like to combine breathing with this because it also helps calm down our nervous system, which then additionally, if we're in a deep lunge, helps open up the hips even more. So very straightforward. You have this leg straight, have the other leg as straight as you can. The legs that's in the back, you want that to be as straight as possible. And in doing so, you want to squeeze the glute. So meaning squeezing the butt when you're doing this. Have both arms on the inside. You want to take a deep breath. And then when you exhale, you want to use this arm to push this out a little bit. You should feel a nice deep stretch as you lean forward and push it out to be able to get that nice deep stretch on the inside of your groin and in the back part of your hip. When you're doing the deep lunge, as you're taking the breath in, as you exhale, you're gonna push out for about 5 seconds when you're doing that. So that allows you to get a little bit more bang for your buck in terms of increase in flexibility. So usually I have people do this. This is a pretty hard exercise. Usually I have people do this about 5 times on each side. It's a nice warm up. It's also an exercise that puts your joints at end range. So that's why I don't go too crazy with too many reps. Just about 5 on each side with a deep breath and an exhale with a 5-second hold. And as you're holding and pushing out, make sure you push your leg outward. That's all I have for exercises to generally loosen up your hips. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you have tightness specifically in the front of the hip, that's more so coming from your hip flexors. Like I mentioned before, you can go check out my other video. I'll put a link in the description below. You can go check that out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.